Hello, my name is David Ades. I'm a poet based in Sydney and the host of a monthly poetry reading series called Poets Corner in association with WestWords in Parramatta in Sydney's West. WestWords is Western Sydney's literature development organisation. Poets Corner is part of WestWords' public programming that celebrates the richness, diversity and insight that literature offers. Especially in these times, we thank the ongoing support of Create New South Wales, the Cultural Fund of Copyright Australia, City of Parramatta Council, Blacktown City Council and Campbelltown City Council, as well as the many project partners that have enabled us to continue to provide opportunities to writers and audiences. We hope that this new world will see a sharing and a closeness of spirit. Each month, I invite a poet to read poems and talk about them for an hour or so on a theme of the poet's choice. Our guest poet today is Hani Abdile, who will read poems and talk on the theme of time. But first, an acknowledgement of country. I'm recording this from Beecroft. Hani is recording from Sydney. I would like to pay my respects to and acknowledge the elders past, present and emerging of the Wallamita people, the traditional custodians of the land in Beecroft, and of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of the land in Sydney, and to acknowledge also that they are the sovereign owners of their land, which has never been ceded or given up. Hani Abdile is a writer, student, and spoken word poet based in the country of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation in Sydney. Hani was forced to leave her home in Somalia and came to Australia seeking protection in 2014. During her 11 months in immigration detention, she found healing in poetry and developed a love for writing. Her first book of 43 poems, I Will Rise, was published by Writing Through Fences in 2016 and explores how the power of our collective voices can help shape the world to be a better place, we hope, for the next generation. Hani has performed her work around Sydney and interstate and continues to write for freedom and human rights. Hani is an honorary member of PEN International, a lead member of Writing Through Fences, and an ambassador for the Refugee Advice and Casework Service. She has received numerous awards for her community work and creative art. Hi, Hani, and welcome to Poets Corner.
Thank you, David, for having me today. I'm very excited and stoked with time.
Well, it's a great subject. It's a great theme. I imagine that time experienced in a detention camp is vastly different to time experienced in more normal circumstances. Can you tell us a little bit about your experiences, your different experiences of time in Somalia and then in the detention camp and now in Australia, and how those experiences have differed?
I think I love the word time because time is precious and we talk about it daily. Because we always say, like, we don't like when people waste our time. But for me, I always want to put time into the hands of governments who waste human time. And that's when poetry actually become a healing. It's when you have, when like the time that you didn't want to waste, someone else forced you to waste. And the same things happen in Somalia. It happens in Australia. It happens it's happened everywhere. But that's why I love time. And, time in Somalia was, it was running. It was running, we were running from something that was bigger than us. We were running for freedom. And then finally, you get the freedom on your hand. But then you sit in detention and all you have is time again. So for me, time is precious. But now and then, now I'm in Sydney. I have a peace that's great. But my freedom still is restricted. Within that, still I'm running out of time now. Before I had so many time. Now I'm running out of time. Maybe I'm getting older, David.
I know. You got a lot of time still.
But I'm getting older and I'm running out of time now.
But time in detention must have just stretched and stretched and stretched.
Yeah, but we would absolutely. It was because it's time in detention is you're facing a fence full of tears and sadness. You see that is when if you're in detention, you feel different part of time, because you see the workers who work, contribute into your depression, and then you have parents who have kids, and they like ensure, like, it's not. When I was in detention, I always felt that I felt so happy, the fact that I was by myself, not having kids and not being responsible to someone else. So that was like that was detention. Like, detention is like a system of like little times.
Mm.
Yeah, but it was like, I had time, and that's the main reason I wrote I Will Rise, I think.
But also the uncertainty, not knowing what was going to happen and when it was going to happen and where you would end up.
Yeah, and then that is when time comes your enemy. You're like, I don't know, but still, like, I know for a fact, like, still like there's like almost like 2,000 people within New South Wales who are still a temporary protection visa.
Yeah,
that means like a ticket to great life, but with uncertainty.
Yeah,
and that's why I think like time and me, we have a time together.
you have a relationship.
Yeah.
But does it, because you've experienced time in different circumstances, does time feel fragmented and fractured to you, or does it have a kind of linear flow still?
I think it's still like, it is, because like now I understand the pressure of time, because I'm working, like, and I'm trying to catch up with times that I was, either running from a war or being detained. So like now, like for me, time is precious. Like, I want to catch it, but it's still time now becoming a brown steak.
Does the theme relate to how you found poetry in your poetic voice?
Yeah, I think that's why I love writing poetry, because poetry, it's, it is life, and life is within poetry, and poetry gives you a sense of a belonging that you don't have with anyone else in the planet.
And you can catch catch a
that.
moment in time.
Yeah, you can catch moments in time. Yeah, and that's that was the best part of being in detention. It was like I had the time to write. I had the time to, like, reflect on the people around me. I had the time to learn different cultures. Like, it was like different things within time. Like, I've learned so much in like within that time frame of like a year and 11 months. Like,
so I mean, this is probably an impossible question to answer, but do you think that you would not have found poetry if you weren't in detention?
oh, I'm from the land of poets and pirates. No, I know, because I come from the land of poets and pirates, but like we have this Somali say, David, that says one time they say like a hyena met a monkey, and the hyena told the monkey, he said like, a myth is a guy who put on their ass and a guy who ran to find it. So that is like, I grew up with like the poetry, but like it was so hidden. It was so hidden from my ears, so I couldn't find the value of it. But and then when like, when time forced me to like flee my own home, I go back in thinking. And that is when, like, poetry become very, like, it become a psychologist for me.
A kind of therapy.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
all right, let's hear some.
Back.
Let's hear some. What are you going to read?
I'm going to read this poem. This poem is called I Would Live and Survive and to Be Asked. Just give me a minute. I would live and survived and be asked. How dangerous was it to leave my country alone? How did my family allow me to leave, how afraid I were that I would be raped or killed. How did I make the decision to travel alone? How did I survive without food some days? Did you walk barefoot as you got mal-injured? How did they allow them to lock you inside a toilet? How did I stay inside the toilet for hours? Did you jump from far places and God wondered? How did you know you had to come to the right place? I will live and survive and to be asked. How did I feel to come by boat? How did I feel to risk my life? Did I know I would stay in detention? Did I know I had come illegally? But I will smile and listen, because when I survived the sea, I thought I was born again. When they ask, did you know the law was changed? I will tell them, I didn't have a choice. When they say, it doesn't hurt you to remember, I will tell them it's in the past. When they ask, what are you planning now? And what do you want to be in the future? I will answer them, I'm planning to live in Australia and I want to be a journalist. When they ask, what about if they send you somewhere else? I will say, as long as I breathe, I will reach my goal.
So this poem is all about questions and being asked questions. And now I'm going to ask you some questions. I hope you don't mind. Is this poem a kind of personal manifesto?
It was like, I think like David, I love this island of ours. It's a beautiful country. But it asks so many questions. It asks humanity in Australia is deceived. It's like the next level I've never seen in my whole life. Like I always thought I always blame everything to America, but I'm like, Australia is the next level. It's like Australia is like walking injustice, and they love everyone is blaming someone instead of fixing an issue. Well, like back home, we know that at least we know that either you're dead or you're alive. But like for me, the main reason to answer your question, the poem is based on the question that we asked daily. So for me, instead of answering, I love putting them into poetry.
As long as I breathe, I will reach my goals, is your conclusion here. So the first thing the poem acknowledges is that first and foremost, you must survive, and everything else is secondary.
Yeah.
And you have survived, and here you are. But the poem seems to be focused on the moment and on looking forward. The past, you say, is past, but it's not that simple, is it? You carry the past with you, don't you?
You do, but I love to see the past as a marking criteria.
As a what?
As a marking criteria. So your past fixes your future. So like your past is like, you read, you don't have to be part of it. You can say I want to leave past into someone, but you have to use it as the marking criteria in order not to repeat things that make you survive, suffer for something. And within that, you look that and you're like, okay, this is what happened in my past, and I'm going to use that. I'm going to learn from it. So that's why, I think that is exactly what happening right now. In in Ukraine and everyone now is more into migration and all that. But is it are we learning from our mistakes, or are we watering our mistake?
Well, I mean, the whole rich, complicated story of Hani Abdile is contained in Hani Abdile's past, isn't it? Who you are now comes from all of that.
Yeah, I think that's why I said the past is a marking criteria for your present. So like you look at your past and you're like, okay, that didn't work. So there's the main reason when things don't work, like there's a reason why they didn't work. So instead of like blaming it, like learn it.
Hmm. So this poem is in part a response to all those inevitable questions. And those questions can be problematic. They can be intrusive, they can be insensitive, they can be questions for the sake of questions without any genuine interest or answers. But they can also be genuine, and people can be really interested in finding out who you are from learning about your past.
Yeah.
But I mean, the poem suggests to me that at times it's been hard for you to navigate through all these questions, and some of them probably have no answers. What have you found to be the best way to respond to all these questions?
Oh, the best way. Oh, I think the best way, like, I love, I have a conflict with questions, and I have a love for questions. It is because I'm a curious person. I want to know, like, if I meet someone, like, I want to know them, like, I want to know, like, when they were born, the time and the date, like, it is, and it depends on, like, which country they come from and whatever I'm always, like, I want to know everything about humans. But, and then I have the fear of, like, I don't want to mislead my questions of how I ask it. And how, like, how, because a lot of people, like, a lot of people don't like, maybe like me and you and the rest, we can be very curious and we love knowing and we're very curious, but some people are more private. So it's like, and that when it comes to, like, when you share your part, you expect the person who's asking the question to tell you the same.
Mm.
Yeah, like that is when I like, that's why like I seek a refuge in poetry, because like poetry and books, like, they solve that problem for you, because you read about it, you're like, okay, you don't have to actually ask the questions, you just have to just buy a book and you read someone else's problem, you will solve someone who doesn't know you their problem.
So there we go.
Invest.
Poetry is the answer.
Yes.
I love it.
It's a hidden weapon.
Yeah. And I guess, I mean, you have sort of made your mark as a performance poet. And I guess when you perform, you get that sense of answers to questions. But do you get a lot of questions coming back at you from those performances?
Oh, David, don't put me into trouble. Don't put me into trouble. I feel so comfortable. This is about poetry. I feel like, but I get, like, you get it. But it is like, it is like, it's still like, it's the idea still with time, like, with time, you can offend someone. With time, people don't forget what you said. With time has like a whole thing that is going on. Like, so like for me, like, there's a lot of things that I want to talk about it. But like the time that I can, or like people like value my opinion based on, like, like before, like I think like I need to pass the simply time in order people to value what I'm saying. I'm still the, I'm still part of the sympathy team.
Well, we all are, aren't we?
We all are.
All right. Would you like to read us another poem?
Yes. This one, the next one, it's called The Significance of Time. The significance of time. The preciousness of time, a prisoner will know. The importance of being a kid, an old person will know. Being healthy and strong, an ill person will know. Forms with meaning, an educated person will know the worth of being a parent, and orphan will know. Appreciation and thankfulness, the poor people will know. Fighting and horror, a person who attacked by an enemy will know. Hopelessness and broken dreams, a detainee like me will know.
Do you feel that your relationship with time is constantly changing as your circumstances change?
Oh, it is like it changes, like, you know, but my circumstances are man-made. They constantly, like, you know, it is like, you know, my life is like being on a washing machine, and it's like every time it is like spin, spin, spin. You know, that is why, like, you know, that's why I have a quite, like, you know, crazy relationship with time, because for people like us, like, you know, time is very important, because with time we're always on a temporary, because we can be physically free, but like we are mentally temporary, because like mentally we're not settled, because at the end, like, you know, you can settle 1,000 people. Like, it doesn't matter, like, you know, where people come from and how much they have seen in life. It is like when people are not mentally settled, you're always fighting with time. So you have a different relationship in every second time with time. Like, you always have your situation doesn't change. So like if it changes too, like, you know, you still be closer, because that is the sound of uncertainty.
Well, I mean, do you think that you will ever be settled?
Maybe like one day, but like it's not about me. Like, you know, it is like, you know, like for me, I see thousands of others like still, like, you know, being displaced. Like, you know, it's like forget about people actually, like, who are, like, you know, in Somalia, in Iraq, in Palestine, Afghanistan. Like, forget, like leave this up people for a little bit, because like displacement, it starts from like what happened just like in Lismo the other day, like natural disaster happened, and we can see that, like, you know, why, like, you know, we don't have enough sympathy. It's like, if we can't responsible with the people on our backyard, do you reckon we can be able to provide those who cross the seas? Those people become a political football, like, you know. So say, and for me, like, you know, I'll always be unsettled. Even if I'm physically free, I'll be like mentally unsettled, because there will be thousands like me who are like the product of like just like, you know, bad idea decision based on people we trust. Sorry if I'm being very I should start being a poet, I think.
Oh, you can say what you want to hear. Do you feel like I think you've probably answered this question. Do you feel like you have to make up for lost time, that you have pressure on you to use time in a particular way?
Yeah, of course. You know, because like, yeah, because like in terms of education, like, you know, I like back home most of the time, like, you know, either like we didn't make to schools, like, so it's like when you make it to a safe place, first of thing, like, you know, you like go back to education, and that is when actual suffering comes from, because it's like, because like people only can actually understand things when you're young, because like that's the main reason age is very important, because, you know, like you have to be able, that's why like we need to ensure, like, you know, children have you know, give them their rights. And parents are great, parents are always, parents never deny a kid their children what they have, like, you know, but time denies the relationship between parents and children. So like there's a lot of loss of things, as like, you know, and I think like when we come to a new place and a new safety, we try to start, like, you know, you start from zero. Even though if you were a hero back home, you start from zero.
Yeah,
You
from
start
hero to
from
zero.
yeah, like you're learning to learn the language, you learn to, you know, how to communicate with society, people who are different to you, like, you know, like even cooking becomes like a matter. Like, you're like, if I use these spices, maybe my neighbor won't like the smell. Like maybe like maybe soon there will be like a smell complaint instead of a noise complaint.
And in this poem, you talk about hopelessness and broken dreams. Can you talk a bit about that and how it's possible to emerge from that?
Oh, like that's why I love that poem. The significance of time. It is my favorite because when I wrote that poem, David, I was sitting. I was actually on Christmas Island. I was in CC camp, and the place that CC camp, actually it's a short for concentration camp, but I call it CC because it's more nicer. It's less traumatic. And like it was quite like interesting. I was sitting there and I saw like this amazing woman. Her name was Mariam, and she was, she was about like on her late 70s. And we were like talking, and she was like Burmese, and I think like a lot of people don't understand the Burmese people. That's why like I'm not saying like people should be kept in detention, but I think like for me as a person from come from a country of like one culture, one religion, one people, like, I don't know why we're fighting. That is another time. We're ignorant from other people, like, it is like we only know one people, and you don't have a chance to learn. And that's why I love Australia, because Australia is a river of broken dreams and hearts with people, like, it is, but it's also like it brings people together. It brings so many people, like, like, and I was sitting with Mariam, and we were on like this little basketball court, and we were talking about things. And I was like, where are you from? And she said, I'm from Burma, which is Myanmar too. Like, people, I think, understand Myanmar. And those people have been stateless for the rest of their life. Like, like their whole like life, like those people never seen, like, like they become like, they either like, in a Western land, or like, like their own land become a dictatorship of others. They're like Somalian. Like Somalia is like good land of others, but hell of their civilians.
Mm.
Yeah, but it's the same with like what happening in like Burma. And that's why I wrote that poem, because like Mariam was like, she have seen so much in life. Because when you make it to almost like 70, that means you're a very patient person.
I'm nearly there. but
I can't wait to read your book.
When you think of your experiences, what do you think of the saying "time heals all wounds"?
Well, I think like it is healing, because like people are nice. Because that's the main reason we survive. Because like, can you believe it? Like, if anyone in the planet was horrible, like, no one would survive. It's because like the journey is hard, but the humans are like, they're great. Like, people are nice in general. They wanna, like, they're by your side. They might not like able to understand you, but they're great. And I would say like it is more like you have to see the wound in order to ensure that you don't become the wooner. You want to be able to be like, because there's a lot of people who have like different wounds, like, in a different way. So it's like we have to, I always think like, we have to see life in a two sides, like, it's full of obstacles and hope. So it is, I think like it's, for me, it's like more healing.
Mm.
And humans are nice. We have to have like, give them, you have to trust them.
Yeah, I think that's true. There's the occasional bad egg, but most people are wanting to do the right thing. All right. Do you want to read another poem?
I'm going to read this poem. David, this one is called Grandmother's Love. And my grandmother, Allah inshallah, she died at the 116. She lived
116.
Yeah, she lived a life that was, it was like, I have no idea, like, it is like, that's why I'm saying with time you make it. with time, you know, yeah, she was like the boss of the Abdile family, because she had everyone's secret. Like no one was up to unfinished business, because like she knew whatever. She like she raised almost like she has almost like 80 people who are like, who like, it's part of a family, grandchildren, great grandchildren, like, and it was like, and when I left, like, my heart broke, because I never thought, like, I will live like grandma. And that is one of the things, like, I think most of the time when you're a migrant, refugee, whatever you are, when you leave loved ones behind, and like, it is really hard, because it's like, you're missing a lot of things. You're missing, like, the birth of a nephew, or your nephew having a kid, in terms of, because like Abdullah family was so many. It's like we're a basketball team. David, I was thinking the other day, I was like, oh my God, if I bring all my family here, we can start an AFL team.
Well, it'd be pretty good.
Oh my God, can you believe it? Anyways, so this is for grandmother, and I always love, like, I always believe, like, your parents, your grandparents, they are like, they are unread books. So like, you have to talk to them. You have to ask them questions.
Yeah.
Back to questions again. You have to ask them, because like their time. Maybe like if they write something and then you can read, but like the best part is like, talking to them and be like, okay, how do we know this? Like, because they've seen so much. Like, and Granny have lived, like, she lived more than anyone else. I know. And this one is called Grandmother's Love. I think of you. When I think of love, you come to my mind. Memories of bad and good would sometimes bring tears. Photographs will never replace the act of being there, and words will never perfectly describe your love and care. Grandmother, your love was pure. I don't remember those days while I used to lie why I'm lying on your bed. Ask if I take the baby goats into their cage. I do remember the nights together, as you told me stories of how you got ramen blessing from your parents. Your love was sweet and pure. You were so special in every way. You made me smile and always there for me, especially when mommy was away. I still remember how you used to say, dadku aabaha iyo deeqay hooyadaa noqoy. May the people treat you like your father and give you the kindness of your mother. I still do remember those days when I used to run up to you every time I mess up with daddy, straight into your lap to take a nap. You were always there when no one seems to care. Ayayo ma'an, you were always there. Sometimes I make you angry looking at my past. I'm not sure why. Maybe I was a child and I thought I was right. Look at me now. How much I have changed. Today I'm quiet, normal, and I have learned a lot. I thank God you had me. I had you by my side to stand still. Those are just a few memories of you. When I was down, your healing helped me. I was about my head. Your smile lasted on my side. You were not only grandmother to me, but also a true friend and a soulmate. My heart felt the day I say goodbye to you. I still remember dadku aabaha iyo deeqay hooyadaa noqoy. May the people treat you like your father and give you the kindness of your mother. Mountains will never meet, but one day I will see you again.
I have to say that the couple of lines that you read in your native tongue I should have got you to read a whole poem in Somali because it's very musical and beautiful.
Somali is hard.
How hard is it for you to write in English?
Oh, but it is like, English, time brought me English,
You can give that one to time as well.
Yeah, no, time brought me English. And it's like you can go into it because languages are, but nothing, I always feel like, nothing is effective as mother tongue. And that's also like, people who speak English natively, they feel like that. Like, sometimes like, like sometimes I just like talk to myself because I miss talking to my mother tongue. So I'm like, it's so good. I'm in my backyard. And if people call the cops, I got Medicare. Time also give you Medicare. Anyways, so Somali is so hard. Like, Somali, it's like, Somali has so many, like English is very like, it is hard, but it's very simple. Like English wants to occupy you. Like he wants to, but Somali is like, Somali has like a whole thing. Like, you speak Somali, like, our language is like the way you say it, we call it sideways. Like if you say it wrongly, like, there's a whole, it's like Arabic because it's Arabic. You have Fusha, you have Al-Hajja, you have like all these other, like, Arabic is very interesting language. So do like French and Spanish, like, they have attitude, our language, but English is just like, English wants to occupy you. It doesn't have attitude. It's just like, yeah, but we need it.
Well, just a question then. Do you write in Somali?
I think in Somali, I translated in Swahili, and I got a little bit of Amharic. And then after that, I come back to English, and then I write in English.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's like different languages.
Has your work been published in Somali?
No, I hope, I hope one day. I think like before like I publish a work there, I need to be able to build hospitals and schools.
You're going to do that as a journalist?
There's always hope in the horizon.
How do you feel that time is impacting on or changing your memories of your grandmother and of your life in Somalia?
Oh, because it is like, actually like, one thing that I appreciate living in Australia is like, you learn a lot, like, it is because like you have like, like Australia is like the sea vomits humans. And when it vomits humans, it brings the, like, it's sort of like Australia is like sort of like a chosen land of sort of like humans who just want to like occupy each other's head. But anyways, it is quite interesting. So it's like you have, but you're not alone in like, you're not alone in like, family separation because it didn't start it today. So like you have a whole team. You have a team of like humans who are separated from their families. And we share that, like, we share our experience to each other. Because it's like, but think like, thank God, like for me, I've lived now almost, 8 years. This year was gonna be like almost 9, living in Sydney, and I lived in the same like neighborhood. People like, people are nice, and then can you believe it, like being 9 years in immigration detention? That is when time become your enemy. Like if you were like 21, you become 29. If you were like 31, you become 39. If you were 9, like, numbers add up and numbers are time. Like, if the person who like, interviewed those people, they give you a slip for your time to come to the interview. How can we not like put them into accountable, like, into that? That's why I love time and poetry, because they keep me busy.
Yeah.
And that is the memory of grandmother. Like, it's, it's like not be able, when you come see your family like daily, and of course, and then, but also it's the blame of the internet, because like a lot of people be like, oh, like maybe like you see them on FaceTime or whatever. Made like since like internet replaced like a human connection, it is like quite interesting.
This is what we're doing now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and it is, and people like just like would like they'll be like, oh, you have like a connection with your family. Like no, like connection means like being able to visit someone, hug them,
Yeah.
like like understand, like like because like it's not about like the phone. It's not about like someone calling. That is my obligation either way. But where is your obligation? Because if I tell you, if I tell you my problem, I thought you could solve it for me. And if you believe in detention, maybe after that, like that is time. Like time makes you laugh and angry sometimes.
Do you worry about time as erasure or forgetting?
Can you repeat
Yeah.
that?
Do you worry about time, particularly when you're thinking about, the people you've left behind and what you've left behind? Do you worry about time as erasure and forgetting?
What is ratio mean? Like I know forgetting. Ratio mean?
Erasure means rubbing out.
Oh no, I think I think it is like it is quite like you forget names, of course, like because like you forget names, but and like and as you forget, like because like people like people pass, like no one like stays the same, like and people like, and then new generation comes, like so you always like keeping up within that, and then you forget someone, and also that is like a memory invasion where like you're like, okay, like I know this person and I know them and I know we're relative, like sometimes like you're like we know each other because we have the same like feature, like like same walking, so you're like, okay, are we family or we were neighbors? But within that still like but you still like you create that in here, like you create that in here, and now like it's a different, like it's like the more people the more I think like the more memories of back home, like sort of like they don't disappear, but they slowly fade. They slowly fade. And also it's like Somalia and Australia is quite the same. It is so hot and a lot of camels. Yeah, a lot of things. So there's sort of things that I'm happy that I made it, and we have so many seas, so there's a lot of ocean because we are on the we're just on the Indian Ocean, so it's like there's many seas, and they clear, like and then also one thing that Australia and Somalia is common, their government are out of their head.
We might be up for a change of government soon, but I don't know how much of a difference that's going to make.
Yeah, that is what happens when places are hot and they have camels. Like we have more camels, and here we have kangaroos, so it is similarity. I was like, oh, I'm happy I came by boat. I joined the club.
Okay, would you like to read your next one?
This next poem is called, I'm sorry guys, maybe I'm being like very depressed within my poems, David.
I don't know.
Yeah, this one is called Screaming Night. I hear screaming within a silent night. One that you hear, but you can't see. One that you know is a human voice, but you can't help. One that you feel they're suffering, but you can't share their pain. You hear their steps, but you're waiting for the time they appear to talk, to be heard and helped. They're still screaming. It's sound like a storm on a summer night. Their world is dark and everyone around them pretending to be blind or deaf from the reality. They talk carefully when they tell their awful past. This is their story. And this is part of their history. And this is what is worth it to write. Screaming. Screaming.
Oh, not too depressing. Um, I had a experience many years ago where I heard screaming whilst I was asleep, and then someone shook me awake, and I discovered that it was my own screams that I had been hearing in my sleep. Whose story are you writing about in this poem?
Actually, when I wrote that poem, it was, it was the time that it is, have you, like, like, I love words, right? Because words are great, like, but like the worst nightmare is like when you try to have a time with words. Like, it is like, I love words. Like every time to time, I like hang out with different words. So I was like, I'm gonna hang out with Scream, and then but Scream was real, like, and it was like when a lot of people were being transferred to Nauru and Manus, and people, like, like we're getting at, like, people taking out of detention at 3 a.m. and you could hear people screaming, like, it's like, it's like if you had a plate and there was a scream, it is like, it was like all the taste of like different, of like, of people like screaming in a different way, like, because voice crazy, like, human voice is so great, but like when it's like sad, like, it is. So that is the main reason. So like all this, like my mates and like children and women and fathers and mothers were like, or like, it was taking like middle of the night, and those people were like, we were sharing, the same block of detention. And like that is the main reason, like, it's like, that's why I wrote the poem.
So this is something that you experienced directly, the screaming
Yeah.
at night?
Yeah, like people screaming, and like, but and then like, and then you like, you measure words, and you're like, okay, and then like so many, like, injustice, and so many like things that are not good for moral, like, I think like sometimes I get annoyed by humanity, because I'm like, if you want to be nice and humorable, I think like you just have to give the basic human rights. Like, it's not hard, it doesn't cost, it's called moral obligation. It doesn't cost anything, you just have to be nice to people. If you hold power, like, ensure that, like, like you follow the criteria of being a human, apart from the policy, like you're human first of all, like what is your moral ethics and sense, like how do you want to, like, it's like first of all, because like you, like, I don't know, anyway, so I was just like, so I was annoyed with injustice, and screaming was my only favorite.
So when you read a poem like this, years after you've written it, does it still have the same power over you?
Yeah, because I think like that's why I love poetry, because it's like poetry. I think poetry remind me of, I think this can be like out of context, but like forgive me, and I'm not trying to offend anyone. It remind me of like what Jimmy Cliff said. They said, I'd rather live as a free man rather than living as a puppet or a slave.
And the
So
poem
poetry for you, it's like that, like, it has that power of, like, it reminds you, but that's the main reason, like, why do you like, I always feel like, it takes courage and effort to write, to share your fear and weakness and whatever. That is why, like, that's why we have all the writers, but it still have the weight. Still have a,
the poem takes you back to that place.
yeah, still coming back to the marking criteria of the past.
Does time have a different quality for you at night?
Or I think I'm more like a night person, actually. I think like I just love the night. Because the night is great and the world is like you can do a lot. That's what I always feel. But also sometimes I have a like disagreement with night, because I'm like, that is when because it's so silent and everyone is trying to sleep. That is when like all the crazy thing happens.
I know what you're just about to say there. You censored yourself. There you go.
Forgive me, everyone.
All right. Would you like to read your next poem?
I got what do we have? Oh my god, this one. This one, it's called Dear Self. And dear self, I know sometimes life sucks. It makes you down, but remember, it's a taste of your patience. You must know life is a session of lessons, which must be lived and understood. Dear self, please, please, please don't forget your inner quality. You're kind and hilarious. You're beautiful and unique. You're the best creation of God. You're worthy of self-motivation. You're the beginning of love and affection. You're precious and diamond for two parents. Dear self. Dear self, you're an example of many amazing people. You have been a positive soul that gives hope to others. And when you feel pain, you're allowed to cry loud. You're allowed to cry loud. You can't be the person of the light all the time. Even though I know you are soft and smooth like the clouds, I want you to take you out in the rain so you can wash all your failures, because every success comes after you fail and pain. Dear self, think of it this way. You have a chance to be better every day. You have a chance to understand about people around you and the whole world. So be wise and highlight your mistakes. So, and those who take themselves pretty high, reject themselves high, reject them, and be true to yourself. Dear self, I want to be by your side through the excitements and the despair of life. I want to offer you a love as a fundamental act of self-compassion. I want to offer you a lamp that to light up your future. Dear self, you're not that bad at all. You're not that bad at all. You're actually really good. And I'm sorry if I ever made you bad or weak. Dear self, look at your reflection in the mirror. Notice all the mistakes. Smile and say, this too shall pass. You only my darling self. And I
know that it's probably true of a lot of poets. I sometimes write poems that are notes to myself, so that I take note of the small things, so that I don't forget the important things. I mean, it's kind of grounding. What does this poem mean to you?
Yeah, it is actually like I think I wrote maybe like, it's those poems that you write after midnight. But it was just like, I think it is it was based on actually on something, and I think I'm trying to remember. Yes, it was based on, like, I was just like, sitting, and I think I had a call with someone, and and then I was like it's all good, like, in life, to remember, like, yourself for a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. And like, remind yourself, like, like observe the things that people tells you. And then, but like, if people see goodness in you, why can't we see goodness in us? So I think it was, as I said, it's like anything that you write after midnight, it goes crazy.
It's not always easy to be true to yourself, especially if that self is always changing and evolving. Have there been times when you have lost your sense of yourself?
Ooh. Oh my God. I think it is, that's one of the things, like, it is like, it's like wind. Yourself is like wind, like, like you can't measure wind, and you can't rely on, like, wind. So it's like, that is like human self, because they really very good at, like, we can get persuaded a lot, and when we get persuaded a lot, we lose our sense of, like, I guess, identity and self in order to achieve something, like, but like slowly comes back, and then you feel the breeze of your old self coming.
So it comes and goes, it blows this way and that.
Yeah. Was it like, I think it was one of, like, David Bowie's song. It's called, like, myself blowed my brain, something like that.
I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it. Does poetry help you stay in touch with who you are?
Oh, no, poetry is like, poetry be under control. Like, poetry is like, it's like the best self-guide, like, it's like the moment, like, the more, like, because you're always like, poetry is like you always a spy of, like no one even, like, you don't understand why you spy, but you spy, like, you mentally spy. You always want to know something. So, like, by knowing, like, by, like, like, because, like, in Somali we said, shimbir dul badan af dejibay ku dhacla, means like a bird that who loves to fly a lot sometimes can fall down in the mouth of a cobra.
Oh, don't do that.
So that is poetry, like, that's what, like, poetry, like, keeps you awake from, because, like, you read a lot, and like you figured it out, like, you're always, like, occupied, you're always, like, looking, you're searching, like, you're looking for new writers, you're reading. So but because, like, every time you want to, like, fall in the mouth of a cobra, you read about a guy who fall in the mouth of a cobra, you're like, okay, maybe, like, I'm gonna go for a lion. Then you go to lion, and you're like, oh, maybe I'll just hang out with cats, because they all like big cats. But I don't want to do that is it. Okay.
I mean, sense of self through poetry, but meaning, truth, all those things.
Yeah, I think, yeah, a lot, like, but it is like, it is like, like, I love, it keeps you, like, it keeps you on the truth, because, like, people who write, especially, like, I would say, like, a lot of people who are product of, like, unfinished business governments, and just, like, we seek a sense of a belonging, and we can't reach that, but the only way we can do it, it is like, is by reading and finding sense of belonging to other people's books. So it's like, we're like, okay, and then after that, you're like, okay, if that person, like, we just live in, like, we live in, like, a precedent. I learned that word the other day. Apparently it means, a lot of good English that I'm learning. That's my favorite word, precedent. But I was like, why do you have, like, precedent in the English language if you don't use it?
It's used in the court system for previous.
Yeah, I know. But I don't think precedent should be used every day, and like, that's why how we learn. Like, why do you introduce a word if you don't want to practice it? I find it interestingly not a good idea.
You have one more poem for us?
This this one is this one is called Mama Africa. Mama Africa, I miss you because, not because I'm here, but my heart aches and tears would roll when I remember you, Mama Africa. What I really miss is you, Mama Africa, the sounds of our camels, goats, and cows, the nomadic life that I used to live, the mats that were made by my mom. I miss you, Mama. I miss you, Mama Africa. It's not because I'm here. It is because it is where my heart belongs, here the land my eyes open up to. When I first arrived the world, the land my grandparents discovered for me. It's where my people fight for our independence, for the next generation to live happily. It is where my heart belongs. I miss you, Mama Africa. Different creatures, great and small, the gathering of the children, learning the Holy Quran together with peace and love, where we played in the middle of the road day and night. No cars or toys, we made our own things to play. It is where my neighbors greeted each other every day like a family. And the traditional dance of my village. That is you, Mama Africa. Mama Africa, I want to stand again on your golden soil, where the diamonds were thrown like rain, where the world came to watch the beauty of our nature. Mama Africa, you're a land of a wisdom. You made our beautiful sites that I'm so proud of. The pyramids in Egypt, Sahara in South Africa, the safari in South Africa, Sahara in Libya, and mountain Abyssinia. Mama Africa, we are grapes that grow from your heart. And no one will turn us into a rich man's wine, or organized, or singers, or many singers with no audience. Mama, feed me with your food, bitter and sweet. Ugali and sukuma wiki, basti baris, anjeria otka, and many more. What I really miss is my homeland. They cut me from you, Mama, like an unwanted branch. You're full of resources. The Indian Ocean is around us, even though we are famous of being pirates. Mama Africa, you are lungs and I can't breathe without you. All the 56 countries in Africa are written in my heart. And this is the land that raised me to grow. All of a sudden, and the endless war arrived in my beloved Africa. It becomes a garden of a dictatorship, a rich land of others, a hell of our civilians, where in poverty become part of my land. Mama, you are my passport, and I would always be ready to save you. You are land of a mystery. I will remain your child, Mama Africa, but a woman of Australia.
So you are a woman of Australia, but always a child of Africa. So that's what one of the things in the past that you carry with you. How has becoming a woman of Australia changed the nomadic child of Africa? Are you still a nomad?
Oh my God. That's the main reason I want to move to Cairns, right? No. I think that's what I told you. Like, that's why I love Australia, because Australia reminds me of Africa in general. It is like, it just reminds me of like anywhere in Africa, like back home, like Somalia, like Somalia landscape, like maybe if everyone is curious, they can look up into like Somali landscape, like, you know, like it gets like, you know, it gets hot, like, you know, it's like Darwin. It's like every day in Darwin, like that is Somalia. Every day in Darwin, so hot. Like, you know, it is so hot, and you're like, and either like, you know, either like you're hunting for something like kangaroos or camels. Yeah, that, but I'm still like nomadic, like, you know, it is, you know, it is a peaceful life. Like, you know, it is like, I think like I've grown a little bit. I've grown a little bit, but I think I would still, I'm like always nomad.
Well, that answers that question I asked before. I don't think you're ever going to be settled, then, are you?
Nah, you know, but still, like, you know, but that is what you can do in Australia, like, you know, in Australia, like, you know, it's like, it's a land, like, you know, of hope, that you can be whatever you want to be.
The lucky country.
Very, like, you know, and that, but also it's like when people mistreat, like, you know, like our luckiness, you're like, please, it is like, you know, it is like, you know, it is like, it like, you just like, okay, I love it, but it's like, I have a conflict with you.
Mm.
You know, because like we have to, like, in order like to ensure, like, because we can all be like, we can all love part of it, but like we also need to like address the fact that we don't understand it, you know. Ensure, like, you know, ensure like 100%, like, you know, we need to work and ensure, like, you know, every woman and man, wherever, like, you know, sleep safe out of like domestic violence. Because you can have guns, that is freaking great, like that's much better, because like that's the hidden violence within our society. That is what like burns my heart. Like, you know, we need to be able to address that in a way that, like, it's like a communal, because with two hands you can do more, but like, you know, we can't. But like, we need to like gather everyone. I hope I answered your question. Yeah, still unsettled, very nomadic.
Do you have any other thoughts or reflections about time that you want to share with us?
Oh, okay. Actually, I would love to, but one more poem. Actually, this poem is quite, it's very new. Just wrote it about a week ago. It's quite like interesting, because like I wrote this poem, and it was great. It was part of actually this Biennale. They were nice to me. Thank you. And we had a great audience, but like I had to write about like salt water. I had to write about like salt water, and I think like for me, like, you know, I have so many, like, you know, crazy times with, like, you know, with ocean. And yeah, with like ocean, all that. So anyways, so that this will be like it's called Survived Island. I live on a land. I live on a land clear as the sky. It has a vibrant lead. The drums of upcoming storm, it impose design thoughts. I love this island of mine. The wind brings dreams. It bakes in the sun with unbreathable noise. Determined dyed bodies of heads heading policies, testing twists like a cricket match on a boxing day. It is blessed with vision, projected kindly on a silent voice. Blame is the base. It's an island of hope. And when the seas vomit with a baggage of history, the foundation is sitting on an egg. Most of citizens have the symptoms of insomnia. They are extra curious and cautious. It's an island of miracle if you believe in a moral sense. They say it takes two for tango. In this island, it takes many turns for a tiny turtle. This island become my notebook. It has 8 years of me. And those 8 years, humanity was slowly sliced. There was nothing growing bigger anymore. The nation of this island think through nature. The things that life has made accessible. We are not poor in languages. It's the core of our communication. My home is on the Horn, a threshable land. It's located in a place that have seen grief for decades. It's a home of hope. It's hot and cold. The rivers are running and the seas are clear. The roads are narrow, but everything is moving. The food is the chester of our being. Dance is the foundation of ourselves. Peace is on the horizon. But my heart is divided by two. I'm developing history illusions. My horn and my island. They are similar in climate. Their leaders are up to unfinished business. And I'm learning while my words are sowed under my tongue.
Thank you for the 8 years of you and for the poems you've shared with us today on the subject of time. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, David. Yeah, I love your poetry, and yeah, you inspire me. I love it. Like, all the writers. I love our community. It is good. It is like, because it's like, maybe like sometimes we don't communicate, but like, and then when you like, get someone's book and you're like, okay, like, I know you.
Well, we've got
community.
We've got many more Poets Corner podcasts to come with many more of those poets from our community. They're writing so many wonderful books at the moment. Hani's book can be obtained through the Writing Through Fences and Word Travels website. And the link to that will be available with this podcast. We will return in April with Brett Dionysius on the theme of war music for a very appropriate Anzac Day podcast. See you then. Thank you.